All right, this is If My People Bible Reading, part 148. We are now in the book of First Kings. And for those of you who have the hardback version reading this, you'll notice that the time dates, the time dates of First Kings and Second Kings was around 561 to 538 BC. And Samuel, First and Second Samuel, was written about 931 to 722 BC. And some old Bibles from way back when, most of them you can't find anymore. You have to go to the library. It's not Google and all those other search engines. They say that this is Third Kings, and Second Kings is Fourth Kings. So you have one, two, three books called the Kings, but you don't see that today. One of the reasons is because of the time lapse I just gave you. The the correctness back then, way back then, first, second, third, fourth, it was about the kings. That's true, absolutely true. But it's been changed in the Bible, and the Bibles that most people get off of the bookshelves are, of course, all in a certain form and matter, as we'll explain in a few minutes when we talk about the temple location and the temple design and so forth, and how that's all needs to be studied a little bit harder than what you're being told in institutionalized churches and Orthodox synagogues. First Kings starts with King David was getting old, advanced in his years. He had his reign time. Solomon that followed him, but in between was a strife. And once again, it was David was a man after Yahweh's own heart. David wanted Yahweh's heart. Incredible man. Um, Incredible repentance, incredible sins, murder being one of them, and the forgiveness that Yahweh gave him for that. Interesting. But the penalty of what you've done this in your time, because of what you've done, he's not going to change. There's going to be strife and diversity and attempted murder in your family as a result of what you did, David. So he's getting old in age, and he's just like anybody else that kind of gets up in ages. He needs comfort. His health is failing slowly. Um, Verse 5 in chapter 1. Now Adoniah, whose mother was Haggith, put himself forward and said, I will be king. So he got chariots and horses ready with 50 men uh, to run ahead of him. Comment. Now, does this sound familiar? Because it should. This goes to show that even in our lifetime, people just don't seem to get it. They are blind to ambition and greed and glory and all that jazz in this lifetime. When King David was in the will of Yah, he spoke of the kingdom to come, life everlasting, and stayed away from the wiles of the world. And so here we go again with the troubles of David. David was told the sword troubles would follow him all the days of his life and beyond. You will find more good and precious lessons of life in the Mikra than than according actually in the new covenant. It's a sad comment that most people like you have owned the Bible and not even read it. Many people that get a hold of me saying, "Well, for the first time, I'm 67 years old. I'm 52 years old. I'm 20 years old. I'm 90 years old, and it's the first time I've actually cracked that Bible and read it." Thank you for those emails. Thank you for all the honesty that you say, because I believe that. I absolutely do. May you be blessed. Um, this prayer and this comment today is for you. So um, here we see that. By the way, Anoiah, meaning Lord, Father. Great name that he got from his mother, and David had a few errors that he had to work out. He multiple wives. Oops. Solomon did not learn that lesson at all. He was probably the worst man in the history of the world with the most messed up understanding of marriage. So Solomon, the wisest man in the world, has no clue about marriage. None at all. And so we get on to still in chapter 1, verse 35. Then you are to go up with him, and he is to come and sit on my throne and reign in my place. I have appointed him ruler over Israel and Judah. Now, Israel and Judah were one united kingdom during David. Now, that's all about change. And as I mentioned before in the last few readings before that, every one of the kings from the split kingdom, from the northern kingdom, from Israel, the Israel tribes, the 10 tribes, not one had a good king. And less than half were anything close to decent after King David. It just all falls apart. It goes to sin goes down through the generations. Now, as we understand today as chemists, who really are scientists, who really do not just come up with a solution and then make it fit. We study things, cause and effect, and so forth. If someone does something in your body, in your DNA, it takes 2, 3, 4 generations to flush it out. And one of these stunning evidences that is somebody has a child and the child is born with striking red hair. And everybody looks at each other like this. Hey, where'd this kid come from? Accusing the husband, accusing the wife, whatever. 2, 3, 4 generations. This recessive gene's been sitting there from some generation way long ago and hasn't left, but suddenly it pops up. It kind of goes like that. So this is what has to happen. There has to be a flushing out. We have to live with the sins of our fathers, meaning the sins of our mothers and our fathers as a result. Kind of give you an example here. If you have a relationship, this intimate relationship with a man and a woman, now these days it's man and man, man and animal, woman, woman. It's just everything's off the charts today. But we're just going back to what is the normalcy, what is right. A man and a woman, period. You can't have anything else because it doesn't produce life. You can't get life from the other incredibly stupid, ignorant, evil people that are coming up with this sexual normalcy, coexist nonsense. It doesn't exist. You can't make it happen. Right? And if you do the test 1 billion times, it's still not going to happen. And Satan, he learned his lesson when he got a little cocky about all that. He had to alter and degenerate people. He could not make people. He could only alter them. And that's what I'm talking about with sexual intimacy. If you have sexual intimacy with a one woman, you have taken on her DNA. She's taken on your DNA from just one time together. Just one. Now here's the part that you don't hear from anywhere else, including the churches. If someone has another relationship, well, it's just casual, then you picked up their DNA. They picked up yours. And that DNA stays in you, and it alters your DNA for the rest of your life. And then those people just had 1 or 2 also. It's not like it's the end of the world. We're just going on our feelings and emotions these days. Well, think of the consequences. All I say is, okay, go ahead, but think of the consequences. So if it's 2 or 3 or 4, and that's it. I mean, that's it. You live 90 years old. That's it. Look at the science. I happen to be a scientist, and I look at numbers, factorial multiplication. Do you know what that is? So if the other 2 and the other 2 and the other 1, and this one and that one only had 1 or 2, that's up to about, 144 people are entering your body. Think about what I just said. 144 DNA people just entered your body the first time that you thought, this is it. If somebody is not a virgin That's why Yeshua talks about my bride will be a virgin in the millennium, in the forever kingdom. My bride will be a virgin because he's got to clean that out. You can't get this out by just going to the pharmacy or cover-up medication or whatever you want to call it. Plus, your feelings and your emotions for the rest of your life will play in part of the feelings and emotions of that other person. So sometimes you feel like you can't make up your mind because there's 1,000 voices talking to you and you can't sleep at night. You're just not comfortable all the time. Well, it's because it's probably true. Now, men call that psychosomatic, they call it psychotic, they call it multiple personalities, they call it bipolar dysfunctions, they call it 1,000 other things, but they don't call it the truth, sin. And that sin's in there, and you can't get it out with pharmacies, because we live in the age of pharmacies. Pharmacies, science is going to take care of all of us. We're going to go to Mars because we screwed up the Earth. And we're going to use the moon as a launching point. And we're going to dig and dig and dig in all these planets. And that's where we're going to get our energy for going back and forth with all the power. And that all this stuff has been planned out. But you know where they left out the most important person? They left out Yahweh. They left out salvation, Yeshua. They left out the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit that lives within your soul. And they've forgotten about the soul. Because that's okay. We'll just go down to CVS. We'll just go down to Walgreens and get some drugs. And that will cover it up. All it is a covering. Even Yeshua was very strong to the point. This blood stuff that's been going on for thousands of years, which stopped, by the way, when he came. It stopped. We don't do and we will not do blood sacrifices on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem in the millennium, folks. We will not be doing that. That's an abomination of desolation. When Christians and Messianic Jews do this, it's not Satan wearing a red pointy little hat with little horns out here, taking a pig and eating it, or cutting it up and throwing it on the floor in the temple area. That's not an abomination of desolation. That's not what happened in Maccabees. The abomination of desolation in reality is taking everything Yeshua did from the beginning of reality to now and repeating what Yahweh says. I never wanted a temple. I never wanted this. I never wanted that. His idea of a temple, a perfect temple, I tried to get an image of my brother. Maybe I'll take a photograph or something. He just drew a house, a home, a family, and a piece of land. That's the temple of the future. The final heaven will be a house, a home, a family, a piece of land, whatever. It's not going to be a temple. It's not going to be something everybody's walking around with some pious look on their face, throwing a bunch of this and saying a bunch of that and repeating this stuff every Shabbat, saying the same songs and the same prayers and the same everything, which you see in the churches, in the Hebrew roots, and you see it in the Orthodox Judaism. You see the same thing. There's no originality. When you read the Bible, when you read this book, the big book here, when you read it, do you see him repeating himself over and over again every single time in every chapter? No. Do you see him repeating certain sentences and certain things over and over again? Yes. Like we're going through this, Yahweh says, and we just finished the last Jeremiah, over and over again. Yahweh says, I will do this, I will do that. You must do this, you must do that. He repeats what you need to do, yes. But he doesn't sit there and simply go, blessed be the fruit of thy womb, Jesus Christ. Have you ever watched that channel? Are you kidding me? And people actually put that on television. People actually believe that. Well, I'm a Catholic and I can believe that. And, well, I'm Islam and I got to bend down 47 times a day and I got to put a bunch of spinners up there and people do over and over again. That's exactly what goes on in every single of the thousands of hedonistic, satanic worship circles today. That's what goes all over there. So First Kings is going to be good to you. I'll see you in a few minutes with the next recording. Go ahead and go to the next one. All right?